How you doing? It's Dan. Hope you had a good weekend. It's Monday. Are you revved up, ready to go? Did you recharge the batteries for this coming week? So today I wanted to talk to you about protein. Last week we talked about carbohydrates and the different types of carbohydrates. And remember, there are kind of 3 different types. And it's the best choice of carbohydrates are vegetables pretty much most of the time, with a little bit of fruits here and there. And if you're going to eat starchy carbohydrates, then you've got to earn them. So 0 to 3 hours after eating, that's when you want to eat it. And it's all about making sure you're not overdoing the carbs. So we're going to convert all that into body fat. Now, protein is really important because essentially we are made of protein. Protein essentially gets broken down with our digestion, and the actual kind of process eventually comes down releasing something called an amino acid. And there are essential amino acids and non-essential amino acids. I'm not going to bore you with all that. But essentially, amino acids are our building blocks. They're pretty much everything that we're made of. So if you lack protein in your diet, then of course you're going to have a problem with your health and your fitness. And most people are walking around being protein deficient because they're not having protein normally at breakfast time or at lunchtime. Okay, in the evenings, most people have a good balanced-ish meal in the evenings, but it's the breakfast and the lunch where people are falling down. So if you think about our muscles are made from amino acids, our neurotransmitters are made from amino acids. Our immune system, our enzymes, so basically, how reactions and cellular function happens in the body. Pretty much we are made of protein. And if you think of it like this, a little bit like carbohydrates where they're stored as glycogen in the muscles and the liver, protein is stored in a kind of blood plasma. So like what we call a protein pool. So if you're going through day-to-day stresses, we get up, we have work, we exercise, we're exposed to the environment, we have emotional, mental stresses of the day. All of this basically requires our bodies to dip in to the protein pool, like a reservoir of protein, in order to rebuild and replenish. So the first part of the day is what we call catabolic. And the second part of the day is where we rebuild, basically. And that's where we dip in to our protein pool and we use those amino acids to rebuild our body, essentially. So the more you're under stress, the more you exercise, the more your protein intake needs to increase. It's said that you don't need much protein to survive, but you need quite a lot more if you want to thrive. Now, if you just think about that for a second. So this is where vegetarians can kind of get away with it, especially if they neglect the protein. But if you want to feel good and you want to have a good immune system and you want to have a lean body mass and have a good metabolism, then you need to eat protein pretty much with every meal. Now, protein comes in different shapes and sizes. But a good way to think about it, if you're not a vegetarian, is protein. Best sources of protein comes from anything that's had a pair of eyes. Other than that, so fish, meat, and all those sorts of things. Secondary proteins is also with vegetables as well, particularly legumes and pulses. If you're a vegetarian or you don't eat much meat or fish-based proteins, then that's where pretty much you want to get your sources of proteins from. So lentils, beans, all those sorts of things. Now, proportion wise, this is really based on people that just kind of stable, so they're not going to drain their protein pool. Then you want to have proportion wise for women about a palm full of protein on your plate, and for blokes it's 2 palms. And it needs to be with breakfast, lunch and dinner. And if you can balance your snacks with a bit of protein, that's great. So think about this. Somebody goes, a person who doesn't eat much protein, exercises 3, 4, 5 times a week, they're dipping into the reservoir, dipping in, they're getting depleted. Now what happens now is the body then thinks, oh my God, I'm running out of protein, what am I going to do? I'm going to tap in, I'm going to cannibalize my own body in order to provide the nuts and bolts to keep my body going. And this is where our lean body mass dips as we get older. And especially if you're exercising without replenishing protein, your metabolism is going to drop. And that is bad news if you want to burn body fat, because that's where our metabolism really is fired up, is to be nice and lean. So there we go. Protein is where it's at. Make sure you're eating plenty of protein throughout the day, especially if you're active or if you're under stress. Hope that helps. See you soon.